So, in the last week, we try to define the second most important actor of environmental history. I hope you remember the theory of Gordon Chad, who divided three great periods, the history of humankind. The first, agrarian revolution, the second one, urban revolution, and the last one, industrial revolution. It's very important because the most important actor from the point of view of environmental history was cities. And we try to define, because this is the basic concept of history, and then generally the disciplines define the basic notion, basic concept. We try to define the concept of city. In the last week, I tried to use the experiences of contemporaries, St. Augustine or István Verbőci. The next step was using the concept of definition of geography, which is other discipline but interested for the event of city. And the last one, the definition of history. This is a definition of history I borrowed from the Cambridge Economic History, its great volume, and try to describe whole of the human history. Therefore, this kind of definition usable not only for the modern time, but for the antiquity, for the Middle Ages. Therefore, we can generalize this concept. The first one we define here, which is the city. High number and high density of population. It's generally true, but the gap between criterion of high density of population, it's very different. I hope you remember in the last week I spoke about, for example, in Norway. In Norway, the limit of city only 200 inhabitants. It's ridiculous from the point of view of 21st century with 8 million people on the world, but in Norway, in consequence of low density of population, a Scandinavian country, but it's generally true, high number and high density of population. The second criterion, determining part of the population, not primary producer. Which is the primary producer? Primary producer means peasant, not a peasant. A city, this is a settlement, not for peasant. But very, very important to call your attention that some city formed by peasant. Look at, for example, somebody traveled and visited in Pozsony, Bratislava recently. Okay, around Pozsony, there are a lot of small cities, like, for example, Kismarton, Rust, Bazin, specialized to wine production. Therefore, the determining part of the population, peasant, primary producer. Therefore, it's generally true, because the city, this is a settlement for bourgeoisie, for example, clerk, for example, employees, for example, intellectuals. Therefore, artisans, not a primary producer. But we can find some exception, like, for example, Kismarton, Rust, wine producer cities. It's a primary producer, but specialized, something, it's very high added value, like wine, but basically, it's working on the field. Okay, the third criterion, differentiated society. What means the differentiated society? It means a very large hierarchy from mayor to the beggar. It's very high. This is the first one. And the second one, a lot of artisans with different specialization living in the city. Therefore, large scale of specialization and large scale of hierarchy, social hierarchy. Moreover, not only whole of the inhabitant had citizenship. For example, in Venice, which was one of the largest cities in Mediterranean area, lived 150,000 dwellers in Venice, but only 10% of population had citizenship, any other only lived in the city, inhabitant without citizenship. Or look at, for example, Hungary. In Hungary, recent Hungarian Republic, more or less 10% of population, because if we are looking at the election, for example, election of parliament, 10% of population not able participate in the election. Why?
Criminal background?
No, it's not so tragical, the situation. Yeah, but how many people are living in prison recently? How many people? Very famous prison of Szeged, which founded in the 19th century. But how many people, according to estimation?
100,000?
No? 100,000. Yeah, it's a prejudice, because you switch on the TV and you realize we are living a criminal country. It's very hard infection of criminality. It's not true. It's a very calm country. Only 30,000 criminals in the prison. 30,000. It's more or less. It's depend on the point of view, but not so much. Not so much. But unfortunately, the number of prison it's very low. Moreover, no recovery, no reconstruction. Majority of prison constructed in the 19th century. Why? Before the 19th century, no prison. If somebody punished, killed, or beaten. In the traditional society, no prison, because the serious criminals killed, and not so serious, for example, truncated the head, you know, this is the medieval legal system and the law, or beat it. It was a normal. In the 19th century, constructed the prison, like, for example, Star or Csillagburton, Szeged city, but in the last decade constructed some new prison because so overpopulated. Okay, my question was, why not able to participate on the election, national election, more or less 10% or more, it's possible, it's estimation, no final data. You have other offer?
Because they don't have Hungarian citizenship?
It had Hungarian citizenship. No valid identity card. Expired. A lot of people living in the village and very poor, very, very poor, and not able to finance traveling to the local center and paying for the traffic, paying for example, eat something in the city, in the county, capital of the country, county, not country, county, and it's too much for them. Therefore, at least not by chance, look at, for example, the campaign, political campaign. Nobody interested for the poor people. Not usable for election. No valid, because you participated yet in the national election, I suppose. Which is the first operation? Look at the identity card. Valid or not? If not valid, no chance for election. No chance for election. For example, this is one of the most important reasons for the harsh policy against the poor people. Look at, for example, recently in Hungary. Who are the most important target of the political campaign? The beggar. Which is the offer, recent political elite for the beggar? Closing to the prison. Like criminals who living on the street. It's a homeless people. Close to the prison. Why? Why poor people? Okay, turn back to the story. Differentiated society, region. It's very important, the region. Look at, for example, I suppose you visited yet in the square Marsh. This is the city market. And look at the sellers came from the network, the urban network, and the background it's of the city. For example, Sándorfalva, Öttömös, Dorozsma, Domaszék, this is the region of the city. But not so easy to judge the real region and the boundary of the region of the city. Look at one example. At the end of 17th century was a great subsistence crisis, whole of Europe. Therefore, the king of Sun, you know, the Louis XIV, the king of France, organized a supplement network around Paris. Paris was one of the largest city whole of Europe, 500,000 inhabitants lived in Paris. Therefore, organized a network and the transport from Normandy and from central part of France to Paris. Cereals, wheat, rye, and any other state foods to Paris. And the contemporaries and later the economic historian calculated the expense, the cost of the transport, and calculated the transport, the wheat from the region to Paris was generally 160 livres. Livre was the contemporary currency in France per 100 kilogram. This was the expense of transport cereals to the outskirts, to the region, to Paris. On the same period was the same subsistence crisis in Amsterdam. Amsterdam, capital of the Netherlands. But it's a very interesting story because the Dutch people organized a colonial empire, but basically different manner like England, Spain, and any others, because a Dutch colony organized to the spider logic. You know which is the spider. This is the small insect, the spider, and the spider network. No territorial conquering operated, but only the crucial market network, crossroads located one agency. For example, to Calcutta in the case of India, to Ceylon. It was a spider network. It's a spider network. Only one place was where a real traditional conquering and colony constructed, southern part of Africa. You know, this very, very similar story like in Hungary, because located in the 17th century, a great colony in South Africa. It's named Boer, you know, the Boer population, or other name, Afrikaans population. It's Dutch people, but conserve the language in the 17th century level, before the modernization. In the Hungarian history, there is a similar case, you know, the Csángó, Hungarian, Csángó, who moved out of Carpathian Basin and saved the linguistic structure of Hungarian language before the modernization and leave a separated position from the Hungarian main population, therefore saved the... Okay, but it's only linguistic story. Turn back. 17th century crisis, a Dutch trader organized the transport, import of rice from South Africa to Amsterdam. South Africa to Amsterdam via Atlantic Ocean. How many livres was the cost of import? Much farther compared with France. 40 livres per 100 kilogram. Why? Because the transport in France based on coaches, carriages, is drawn by animals, mainly horses. It's much more expensive. And the Dutch trader organized maritime trade, by maritime trade, sailed much more cheaper. Therefore, if we compare the transport cost between Paris and Normandy, Paris and Bretagne, Paris and Gascogne, and the cost of transport between Amsterdam and Cape Town in South Africa, Cape Town much closer than Marseille to Paris. Because the form of transport are different. Therefore, the region is true, but in the maritime port case, not so easy to define, which is the real region. And the last one, a fortification. A fortification. You remember the definition of István Verbőci, the city which fortified and circumscribed by surrounded with walls, generally true. Of course, if you are walking around the medieval landscape, the wall is a very important peculiarity of cities. Even on the name of the city declare we are surrounded with wall. Look at, for example, capital of Serbia, Belgrade. You know what means the Belgrade in Slavic language? Bielo, it's a white. It's a white grade, it's a fort. Like, for example, in the case of Hungary, Fehérvár. Belgrade means the same like Fehérvár in the case of Hungary. Fortification generally true that, for example, in England, after losing of the 100 years and conquering of Wales and unification with Scotland and conquering of Ireland, in England, after the 16th century, nobody constructed walls. Why? Because England and the English army dominated whole of the British Isles. Not necessary. And save a lot of money. Save a lot of money. Because reconstructed the budget of traditional city, and 90% in the continental area, 90% of budget of cities used for construction, reconstruction and guarding of walls. Therefore, English cities saved this huge money, and not by chance it's flow into the investment toward industrial revolution. Industrial revolution. Okay, and if we are looking at these criteria of city, we are missing only one important criteria: a market. A market. No any word about the market. Why? Because a distribution of goods, not only the market. There is a student from Faculty of Economics, okay, which kind of methodology are for the distribution of goods. Only one, the market. Which is other? Which is the rivals? Distribution. Gathering the goods, for example, via taxes and fees and any others, and a state redistribute according to interest of state. Look at, for example, China. In China, no place for animal husbandry, but for Chinese army, necessary to recruit a cavalry, but no horses. Therefore, from taxes, gathering the huge amount by the Chinese budget, and the Chinese trader traveled to the Great Wall, and the nomadic people living out of the Great Wall buying horses according to interest of empire. Therefore, this distribution. And the third manner of moving and mobilizing the goods, it's a reciprocal forms. You know which are the reciprocal forms? Reciprocal forms? Nobody knows. Like, for example, in the Hungarian practice, this is the kolako. You know which is the kolako? Kolako. Kolako means, for example, there is a young couple. After the wedding ceremony, no money for construction, for example, a building, but only buying raw material, bricks, cement, and any others, and the timber material. And the friends and relatives have for this young couple, construct the building. This is the reciprocal form. It's not a market, because the guiding force, you know which is the guiding force, which mobilize and activate and determine the behavior. The guiding force, the needs of the people, the needs of the people. For example, some friend never asks back the help. It's not a fault, because the guiding force, the needs of participant in the Kalaka system. Generally, it wasn't a great structure, because it's a local solution for the problem. For example, in Africa described a similar situation. For example, 2 and 3 small villages in African continent collaborated. One village lived in the sea coast and specialized for fishing, and a continental village specialized to the plant farming, and changed, for example, the harvest, the fish and the harvest between them, according to needs. The guiding force was the needs. Okay. Market redistribution and reciprocal forms. Good. We define the city. Look at the real city. The first real cities constructed in Mesopotamia, on the valley of Tigris and Euphrates. The first classical cities was the Sumerian cities. And the first well-documented city was a city of King Gilgamesh. You know the epos of Gilgamesh? This was a great king, like a Bible, but Sumerian Bible. The story, or much closer a little bit, the Odyssey of Herodotus. Yeah, and Gilgamesh was the great king of Uruk. Sorry. Translated to Hungarian, therefore, if someone interested for the everyday life of Sumerian cities, it's a good novel. And the structure of Sumerian cities is quite different from the recent cities, because recently is a constructed area where constructed the buildings divide from the, for example, meadows and the fields and the villages. It's a constructed built area. But in the Sumerian cities, a little bit different. Around the Sumerian cities, no villages network. The civilization was a city. Surrounded a long wall. Inside of the wall surrounded area, no built area, only a very tiny part was a built area, any other a grazing land. Because a large animal herds on the, for example, wartime and critical situation, necessary it's driving inside of the wall surrounded area. It's much larger. For example, Sumerian city, which constructed 3200 before Christ, the length of wall 9 kilometers, the space 100 hectares, and population unbelievable high. It's 3,200. It's 50,000 years ago. It's happened very far, and population very high. It's estimated between 50 to 60,000 dwellers. And the story of Gilgamesh is very interesting, because if you will write the story of Gilgamesh, there is a very close friend of Gilgamesh. His close friend named Enkidu. Enkidu originally was born in the white area. He was the white warrior. It's very cruel, very tough, very famous warrior. And Gilgamesh, King Gilgamesh, would like to invite inside of the city as bodyguard and a friend and fellow, and used temptation of civilization, which was the offer for Enkidu, which is the most important temptation of civilization. You have some idea? The first one, the wine. Because making of wine is so easy. But the consequence of wine, there is a festival on May in Szeged. You participated yet? You can test it. And very interesting, the effect of different form of the alcohol, very different. For example, a wine able to make a floating psychology. We are floating, not by chance. For example, in the Greek mythology, this is the beverage of god and goddess. It's floating. If somebody, a short drink a little bit dangerous because able to open the brain, each part of the brain, and for the beer necessary to pissing too frequently. Okay. Wine, which is the other one? No idea? I let a little time, cheers. Civilized woman. Because, of course, in the wide area living a lot of women on the mountain area, but don't take shower every day. And no able to using perfume and well-fashioned clothes. Civilized woman. And if we are looking the following history of humankind, King Gilgamesh find the key for the white warrior. How possible domesticate the white warrior, wine and civilized woman? Its function even no. Its function even no. Okay, this is the first generation of cities, and in that time, in Sumerian time, the city and the civilization was the same. In former time, I spoke about the triad of control. I remember, triad of control. In Sumerian cities used the first time the triad of control. You remember? No? Triad of control. Free form of the control. The civilization necessary checking and controlling the local population. The first control, extra-human control. I spoke about that, I remember. Extra-human control mean necessary checking the physical environment. The second one, interhuman control, necessary checking interaction between human and directing and guiding with help of legal system. With happen and with not happen. And the third one, interhuman control. Each power, each government would like to know the thinking of contemporaries, thinking of inhabitants. Okay, first time applied in Sumerian cities. The next phase of evolution of the cities, specialized the cities. Not the city is the civilization, made empire. For example, one of the first empire was the Babylonian Empire, and they made a capital. One city arose, any other, it was lower rank of hierarchy. When founded a Babylon Empire, Babylon became the capital. And for example, Ecbatana, it was one of the port between the Mesopotamia and the mountain area. It's a great chasm. It's a basis of military basis of army. No more, specialized city. It was a boundary control, the most important function Ecbatana. And up here, a great innovation, a trading cities. You know the Phoenicians. Phoenicians, it's the most famous Phoenician city, Byblos, Sidon and Tyros. invented the money, the coin, the first form of the money. It's unbelievable great innovation, because before the making of money, which was the most obvious form of the trade, the barter, change, for example, one sheep to ducks. It's not efficient, because it's possible who has a sheep, not necessarily who like to buy a ducks, and simplify by money, and generally used in the early time different precious metal. But the next great step, introduction of artificial money. You know which is the artificial money? One paper which write down its value 100 golden ducats. And which is the most important background of artificial money? Confidence. Confidence with each other. And for example, in Europe, in the Middle Ages, not in modern, in the Middle Ages, 74 more products changed for artificial money. It's no new innovation. Even the Middle Ages. But which necessary for that? Confidence to each other. Okay, Phoenician cities, why so important? Because in this period, no international law. If somebody traveled, for example, foreign country, nothing saved his properties and his life or her life. Nobody, nothing. Therefore, the cities, like Phoenician cities, out of each great empire, Egypt or Babylon, safe place for everybody. This area was the offshore area of contemporary empire's time. Phoenician cities specialized for the trade. Okay, it's a general simplification. How many people might live in cities? This is the actual non-urban population. This is the carrying capacity. Everybody knows which is the carrying capacity. Carrying capacity means eltartóképesség. Carrying capacity means how many people able to feed the contemporary agriculture. How many people? And the gap, non-urban population and the carrying capacity, this is the urbanization potential. It's the contemporary society not every time using the potential, but this is the potential number of population. Look at, for example, Europe. In Europe, a cereal-based agriculture, there is a close proportion situation. In Europe, because carrying capacity of wheat, it's very moderate, very moderate. Therefore, in Europe, before the Industrial Revolution, 80% of population had to be primary producer, mean peasant, and only 20% of population might be intellectual, nobleman, monk, priest, or independent from primary production. But, for example, in Netherlands, even the 14th century, half of population lived in cities. Why? Because in local level might be solve the problem with importing of staple foods from Baltic area. Therefore, but only local level might be stepping over this close proportion, but all of this European civilization before an industrial revolution, this was a close situation. Okay. If we are using the cities in the long history, Ferdinand Brodel, one of the most important historian of the 20th century, made a typology of cities. The first open city, the second a closed city, and the subjected or submitted city. Look at which kind of the city we can, how we can define these categories. The first one, open city. Like, for example, Athens, the polis Athens in Greek history. If we would like to understand what means the open history, look at Athens. Athens, this was a local republic. quite a democratic republic with three type of area. The first was Athens, the city. The second one, Piraeus, the port, and the country yard. If somebody had citizenship of Polis Athens, it's valid everywhere. Might be living in the country, might be in Piraeus, and might be in Athens. The same value, same value. This continue in the Roman Empire. Probably you know the story of Saint Paul in the Christian tradition. He was the people who was very famous and very active Pharisee who it's persecuting early Christian communities, and on the crossroads of Damascus met personally with Jesus, lost the consciousness, lost the it's a general how the name is broke down and converted and became a most important constructor of early Christian church. But very interesting the story, because the psychological profile left the same. Turned the direction, he was the persecutor of Christian, and turned 180 great other direction. He became the constructor early Christian church, but the psychological profile was the same. It's very ambitious, it's hurry, therefore it's very good good example that the basic nature of human, even the God, not able to change, to remake. Okay, but turn back to the story. Saint Paul, or Saul, as named originally, had Roman citizenship. Roman citizenship. But lived in Jerusalem. It's no problem. The same situation. If somebody has a citizenship inside the empire, Roman citizenship, it's valid everywhere on the empire. If somebody traveled to Jerusalem, Antioch, Athens, even Rome, the same situation. It's valid everywhere. This is the open city. The validity of citizenship, it's valid everywhere inside of the empire. In Persia, not, but inside of Roman or Athens empire, which is the closed city. The closed city, this is the typical medieval city. Typical medieval city. We can imagine the Middle Ages like a great ocean. This is the table. A great ocean of feudalism with landlords and with serf. Everybody knows which is the serf. Yuba. Serfs. And inside the great ocean of Middle Ages and medieval world, a small island existed, cities. Inside the cities, the inhabitants of cities lived according to standards of bourgeoisie, civil law. But if left, the city wasn't valid the civil law. Only inside of the city. This is the closed city situation. And finally, the subjected and submitted city, the modern time, when organized the modern national states, annulated and cancelled the local privileges, everything, and the independence and privileges of cities cancelled. This is the submitted city. Inside of the city, outside of the city, the same legal system function. Okay, the first great city-based empire was the Roman Empire. If we are looking at the Roman history was a history of one city. This is the Rome. And the logic of construction of Roman Empire was its conquering the cities of the neighborhood, like Latin cities. but each city surrounded an area, and the city council directed not only the city but the region of the city too. If the Roman Empire conquered some area, for example in Spain, Iberian Peninsula, or the Greek area, the territorial governmental system based to city council. And the city council directed the region. Therefore, we can describe the Roman Empire like a circle or barbs of city and the region. City and the region. Some area which conquered, like for example, northern part of Africa, no cities, founded one new cities. And the city council directed the city and the area of North Africa. Therefore, the logic, the basic logic of the Roman Empire was a city-based logic, because whole of the empire it's made and unfolded from one city. Okay, this is the story of expansion, started from core area of Italy and on the coastal area of Mediterranean Sea, and Gallia, the Gaul, Germania, Pannonian Basin, Egypt, and the final phases was Britain. Therefore, this is the logic, and this is the story of Expire. But basically, it's the coastal area, founded the coastal area of Mediterranean based. How organized, from the point of view of environmental history, the Roman Empire? Three pillars had of the construction of empire. The first is the capital, the second one road system, and finally the economy. If we are looking at Rome according to myth of foundation, founded in 753, location is a central position on the Mediterranean basin, so a geographical basis of the expansion, and the Mediterranean basin quite a homogeneous area. What means the homogeneity? Homogeneity means climate. If somebody traveled from Italian peninsula, almost more or less the same climate has around the Mediterranean basin. The second one, the same vegetation. It's very important. The same vegetation. The three key plants were the same everywhere: wheat, olive, and grape. The same. This is the fingerprint of Mediterranean culture, Mediterranean agriculture. Olive and wheat and grape. Okay, and there is a cultural coherence. Before the Roman Empire, the common language of this area was the Greek language. We are approaching recently the story of how the name is, a Christmas. This is the official birthday of me and Jesus Christ, and it was an open question that, according to testimony of Bible, Pontius Pilatus and Jesus, without translator, was able to communicate. And according to the scholar of contemporary history, this was the common language. This was the Greek language. The Greek language. Okay, how constructed the Roman roads? Roman roads, basically, you can see here the most important Roman roads of the Italian peninsula, but this kind of Roman roads, it's interwoven whole of the empire. This was the highway for mobilization of Roman legions. Therefore, the first important goal of construction of Roman roads was mobilizing a Roman army as fast as possible. But it was a great engineer construction. If we are looking, not the best place, but it's possible you are able to see, it was a very complicated construction. The first step, digging a very deep dike and filling different construction of the sand and different form of the rocks. Why? Because they're and closed with stones, the closing stones, whole of the street, whole of the roads, which was the most important goals of this complicated construction. The first one, if somebody walking on the pavement, for example, which is the most uncomfortable, it's covering with water. Therefore, this deep construction of the Roman roads was guiding the water cover to the deeper part of the soil. This was the first one. And secondly, this kind of the construction of the roads constructed for very light carriages first, and how the name is, horses and the people walking along. Therefore, the construction didn't construct it for the heavy weight. Not by chance, this construction of the Roman roads will destroy on the Middle Ages the heavy carriages, the wheels of heavy carriages. But after the collapse of Roman Empire, this network of Roman roads survived for centuries. Because if no destroyed covering stones, able function without any problem. A little bit same situation like which is the most dangerous, most fragile part of the building, the roofs. The roofs, if for example hurt some element of the roofs, the rain find a good way to the direction of walls. For some month or some weeks, able destroy whole of that. This is the same logic valid in the case of the roads. But it was very well constructed and increased and improved traffic and transport whole of the empire. Therefore, the communication inside of the empire, became the fastest which possible in the traditional society. And the third pillar, economy of empire. Some basic principle necessary to define. The first, a Roman Empire was agrarian empire, like Sumerian Empire, like Empire of Egypt, like Empire of China, agrarian empire. Which is the most important peculiarity of agrarian empire? 90% of income, budget of empire came from agriculture. In the traditional agriculture, no miracle. Therefore, maybe increase the output with 10%, and on the time of disaster, decrease with 20 or 30%. Therefore, the gap of increase the growth and decrease quite moderate. No miracle. Therefore, efficiency of empire may be increased with help of conquering. The best option, conquering a high density of population area, Iberian Peninsula, Greece, and others. Therefore, not very flexible. Agrarian society, not very flexible. Basically, the agriculture based to three forms of exploitation. The first is the farms. The most important, highest population were peasants. Probably you know the movie of Gladiator. In the Roman mentality, the best man is a farmer. You remember, for example, the dreams of Maximus, walking on the wheat fields and taking the pikes with the hands. The best man is a peasant. Not by chance, a Roman city, a city of Rome, a community of peasants. But there is a very tiny problems with the peasants and the peasant society. With the wheat culture, not so much work necessary, but at least 2 periods had to go home. As, for example, dreamed by Maximus. On the time of plowing and sowing, everybody watch me? Plowing and sowing, and harvesting. Therefore, a peasant-based army, not enough efficient. Because 2 options. A peasant army who going home on the plowing and harvesting time, not able to operate, making military operation long term. Other option is not go home, the farms and the household broken down. Therefore, which is the solution? Mercenary. Mercenary, the soldier became a professional soldier. And the peasant left at home, and the second important consequence is immigrants became, and the proportion of the immigrants increased on the circle of mercenaries. Look at, for example, the story of fellow of Marcellus. Came from Africa, came from Syria, out of empire. Therefore, changed the legionnaire, social background of legionnaire. And the second one, latifundia. Latifundia, it's a great agrarian factory based to slaves, slavery. And which is the origin of the slaves? The conquered area, the rival army, soldier of the rival army. And latifundia, the great agrarian factory, produced for the market, for city market, for the market of empire, for army, for great cities market. It's basically to the market. And the third form of exploitation, the veteran lands, the veterans who served service time on the legion. Somebody know how long necessary to serve in the legion? 20-25. Quite long. 20-25. But if somebody survived, it's very well trained killer and located around the dangerous boundary, like for example Pannonia. In the area of Pannonia, a lot of veteran lands located. Why? In critical situation, reactivate the veterans. Good. Wave of expansion, it's not so interesting. Okay, but which was the reason that Roman Empire, which a Mediterranean empire, occupied not only Germania, the German area, not only Gaul, it's a French area, but Britain and Pannonia too. The reason of that, climate change. In the historical past, a lot of times changed the climate. This climate change named Roman climate optimum. It's a warm period. Not by chance, when arrived Roman legions to Britain, founded vineyards. Everybody know which is the vineyards? Okay, vineyards. And until the Middle Ages, large vineyards are in South Britain, South England, much more correct. And located vineyards, Pannonia, and located not only vineyards in Germania, for example, Rhine valleys. Rhine valleys, even recently, one of the most famous northern located vineyards in Europe. And not only wine located, because I told to you some minutes ago, fingerprints of Roman Empire, olive, wheat, and wine, and grape, which is the raw material for the wine. And wine proliferated the northern part of Europe. The second one appeared olive. Olive. In Europe, you know, a free area separated for the cooking raw material. There are olive region, it's Mediterranean, which is the northern, northwestern area, which is the raw material for cooking. Butter. For example, somebody would like to cooking using a butter. And continental Europe, which is the raw material for cooking, grass of pig. Therefore, if area of the cooking we would like to define, there are olive region, butter region, and the grass region. Okay, so proliferation of olive trees, even the Rhine Valley, even Pannonia, and the fig proliferate everywhere. Why? The climate became warmer. And probably you know, it was a news in Hungary some years ago that the olive trees, in consequence of recent global warming, proliferated even in the Hungarian plain. And the figs, for example, proliferated similarly. It's not ripe each year, but try coming back the Mediterranean climate to Hungary. And not only the Mediterranean climate, for example, but the Mediterranean structure of the climate. Because in the classical continental climate, we are 4 seasons. It's possible I told about former time. 4 seasons. Fall time, winter time, springtime, summertime. Recently, only 2 seasons. Winter half year and the summer half year, and the changing month, April and October. April and October. Okay, some indicator of climate change, olive trees in the Rhine valleys, Vanya, Britain and Pannonia. Other evidence beside the climate changes are construction of Roman bridge on the Iron Gate. Iron Gate. You know which is the location of Iron Gate? Nobody? I visited it, not so far from here. This is the structure of Carpathian Mountain, and Danube River arrived on the Strait of Devin, and with one operation, it's broken through the Carpathian Mountain. This place, when it's cutting through the Carpathian Basin, is this is the Iron Gate, located here. You can follow here. This is the Reykjavik. It's a southern part of Carpathians. It's cutting through the mountain. Iron Gate because the size of the bed, the water bed, the river bed, is the closest one. Here, you can see other picture about the Iron Gate, constructed by Roman engineers, a bridge. The most important weakness of Roman construction wasn't able to covering its large distance. Therefore, necessary to use a lot of pillars inside of the river. Why climate indicator a lot of pillars? Because there is a very special nature of Danube. A Danube, jump back, started from the Black Forest in Germany and arrived to the Black Sea in a little bit north from Constanza. And it's flowing through different climate area. This is the ocean-dominated climate area, quite moderate climate, winter time not so cold, summertime not so warm. And if we are approaching to the continental area, the eastern part of Europe, increase the rate of continentality. You know which is the continentality. Increase the gap between the warmth of summer and coldness of winter. Here, moderate, not so large gap between the summer and the winter temperature. Here, in the coastal area of Black Sea, it's unbelievable high. Which is the consequences? The logic and the term of frozening of river started here, eastern part, and the melting started from westward. It's very dangerous, very dangerous. Why? Because the melted ice is flowing to the direction of ice cover. And if we see, for example, a river bed, the profile of the river bed, this is the bottom of river bed, this is the frozen over part of the water, and arrive the melting water with the different ice, and one part of the ice partly melted, it slowed it up and slowed it down, up and down, and finally making an ice cork, closing the bed. Therefore, make an ice flood. For example, in the 19th century, more times destroyed Budapest and Innsbruck and a lot of parts. Ice corking. This is the mechanism. This is the most dangerous part of the flooding nature of Danube. And if this period, when constructed a lot of pillars-based bridge, year by year, the Danube frozen over, surely destroy these pillars. Destroy. But probably this period, no harsh frozen over. Somebody know the Danube, it's water regulated Danube, it's not so the same than the historical past. But somebody know the Danube, on which year frozen over last time? Nobody know? Okay, it's happened 1963, the birth of my year. Okay, from this year, no, frozen over. But recently the nature of river are a little bit different because it's water regulated, decrease the size of water bed and increase the speed of flowing, not the same like in the past. Okay, but the construction and the using for more than 1 century of the bridge of Iron Gate, it's evidence of the warm climate. Okay, Roman Empire finally, it's collapsed. It's collapsed. Why? Roman authors blamed a lot of reason. Invasion of different German tribes and barbarian people. You know the story, for example, in the beginning story and the beginning scheme of Gladiator. This was the Battle of Vindobona. Somebody know Vindobona what mean? Vindobona? Vienna. This is the name of Vienna, capital of Austria. But let's keep it a little bit different. If you visit in the Christmas fair, but it was located to Vienna. As barbarians, the barbarians. Several epidemics. Which is the function of the epidemics? Epidemics, there is a student from medical faculty of, no? Medical faculty? No. But generally in the traditional time, epidemics indicator of the shortage. Because in normal situation, simplification, but in normal situation, if somebody would like to survive, which is the best guarantee for that, if well fed, because the body functions well, the immune system functions well, well-fed people highest the chance for survival. If almost all of the population underfeed, two kinds of underfeeding there are, a qualitative underfeeding and a quantitative underfeeding. Quantitative underfeeding means not receive enough calorie, a quantitative not enough nutrition, vitamins, trace elements, so and so. And if somebody underfed, sensible for the infection. And the real killer are epidemics. Therefore, epidemics indicate the physical condition of society. We can overstop administrative infrastructure. It's a typical logic. If one administration not enough efficient, which is the first solution, increase the number of employees. Incompetence emperor. Why incompetent emperors? Look at the story, for example, gladiators. In the case of emperors, there are, for the position of the emperors, there is a high competition. And in the last phase of empire, killed each other. Therefore, the validity of emperor, how long ruled the empire? 7 months only. And because no enough time for verify there is talented or not. 7 months. Killed each other, like happened in the Marcus Aurelius, who killed even his son. And for the high rivalry, decreased the efficiency, because an empire invented, because the classical republic organization wasn't efficient, because the consuls term of service 1 or 2 years. Therefore, increased the size of empire. Therefore, it was an invention, it was an innovation that increased the term of ruling years. Heavy burden maintained the government, increased the taxes, because if a finance minister no better idea, what happened? Increase the rate of taxes. And which is the reaction of the contemporaries? Escape the cities to the mountain. Why? Because if somebody living in the country are not so easy to checking and pushing to the direction of paying in the taxes. Which are the reason of collapse of great empire? British scholar John Anthony Tainter published more decade ago a very seminal book, The Collapse of Complex Society. Basically, describe the history of empire and the collapse of empire, resource and environmental problems. Resource and environmental problems. Resource problem, it's not enough food, for example. It's maybe a resource problem. Or environmental problem, in the Sumerian city, for example, based to the irrigation system, which is the most dangerous consequence of irrigation. Increase the salt content inside of the soil, because you are watering and irrigate. The water it's expire up, made of clouds, evaporation, the classical term, and each material, mainly the salt, receive inside of soil. And one critical level of salt, the soil not able to fertilize nothing, became like a cemented, asphalted surface. Okay, conflict between nations. Look at, for example, war between Ukraine and Russia. Conflict between nations for different reasons. This area is own, or this area is yours. Social and political disturbances, civil wars, everything. Tainter tried to describe the problem of Roman Empire, and according to Tainter, the collapse of Roman Empire based the following 4 reasons. The first reason, the social-political system, which maintained the military and the civil infrastructure, it's collapsed. The second one, socio-political system, basically a problem-solving and risk-spreading response was, therefore, everybody pay a moderate amount of taxes and constructed regions and civil bureaucracy, and was able to function whole of the empire. But increase the proportion who don't want to pay in the taxes, no budget for financing the army and financing the civil bureaucracy. And the third reason, decrease the information gradient. Somebody know which is the information gradient? Somebody? Nobody? Okay, look at the movie of beginning scene of Gladiator. One side barbarians, other side Roman Empire, Roman army. Which is the differences between the barbarian army and the Roman army? Barbarian army is very wise, strong people with basically infantry, no more, only infantry. You know which is infantry? Yorkshire, infantry. And other side, on the Roman army, there are specialized troops. There are cavalry, everybody know, light cavalry, light cavalry. There are catapults. There are infantry, heavy infantry, which are able to fight in form, in well-trained forms. Turtles, I remember this is the most important, the best known turtles. You know which is the turtles? Turtles forms, each with the, how the name, it's using the special shields of Roman infantry and form a closed position from each direction. This is the turtle position. And there are bows, everything, a lot of different, and there is a plan of battle before the real battle. Probably you know the name of Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu. It's a Chinese general of military history, Sun Tzu. He published
The Art of War.
The Art of War. The Art of War. And Sun Tzu, one of the principles of the Sun Tzu, each battle result known before the beginning of battle, but necessary perform the real battle. And information gradient mean that organization, military plane, training, and every indicator much higher on the side of Roman army, and the barbarian much worse. Barbarian no detailed plan of military operation, no different specialized troops, only running in front of the enemy, no any idea. Therefore, so high the information gradient between barbarians and Roman, no chance. But information gradient equalize. How? The first reason of equalizing of information gradient, that to be legionnaire, to be soldier, not so comfortable job. Very easy to die, very harsh living in caserne, very harsh participate in military campaign. Therefore, increased century by century the proportion of immigrants. Like, for example, there is a special troops in French army, Légion étrangère, probably you know. The Legion of Stranger. Legion of Stranger. Nobody know. It's very famous region of French army. If somebody, for example, my first foreign language was French. And when I traveled to Paris, and I arrived at Gare de l'Est, it's a east railway station, there is a huge picture on the wall with one telephone number. If somebody call, it's a free, somebody call this telephone number and tell the position, for half hour arrive a jeep and bring to the caserne of Légion étrangère, it's a stranger's legion. And nobody ask identity card, Therefore, criminals use this form of légion étrangère for disappearing. And you may tell one name, nobody checking. But necessary serve at least 5 years. And after 5 years, you will receive a French citizenship. A little bit was the same in the case of Roman Empire. If somebody came from barbarian area, told some virtual name, and served 20 or 25 years, received Roman citizenship and a veteran form. And a lot of guest worker, because this kind were a guest worker, traveled back to German tribe, and of course he was a well-trained veteran, knew using the different strategical maneuver and the form of the training, and improved the quality of barbarian army for that. And the second one, the peace treaty, not only signed between the barbarian principalities and the Roman Empire, but used the custom of hostages. Everybody know which is the hostages? Everybody know. Changed the hostages. The son and the children of Roman aristocracy moved to barbarian country, and the prince and the aristocracy of barbarian empire moved to Rome or Ravenna, and he was a guarantee for the accepting both sides of the peace treaty. If somebody broke the peace treaty, the hostages killed. But in no critical situation, receive the best education, the best education. Therefore, after some period, the princes, the barbarian princes traveled back, and education of them was the same like a Roman aristocracy. Therefore, the unbalanced situation became equal step by step. A lot of barbarians received military education in the region, and a lot of German and barbarian aristocrats lived and socialized according to Roman norms. And finally, the climate deterioration. How maybe solve this situation, a critical situation? A very famous British historian, Arnold Toynbee, wrote a long cultural history of humankind. And from the beginning, from the Stone Age to the middle of 20th century, and constructed theories which use each phases of human history. And this most famous theory of him, theory of challenge and answer. You know this theory? Challenge and answer. Challenge and answer mean one person, one community, one empire may be in front of a challenge. For example, look at the Roman Empire, invasion of barbarians. Invasion of barbarians, or for example, you have to passing on the exam. This is a challenge. On the case of first type of answer, the traditional answer. Mobilizing legions like happened in the Gladiator and pushing back the barbarians. This is the tradition. And for example, a point of view of life of student, which is the traditional solution of exam, learning for the exam. This is the tradition. Second type of answer, sometimes first type of answer didn't work. Therefore, necessary to use some innovation. You remember, basically the Roman army was a peasant-based army, which not efficient, not able to perform long military campaign. Therefore, apply innovation, mercenary, a professional soldier. This is an innovation. Or, in the case of student, not able to learn, which other solution? For example, some years ago, I participate in the English course for the student of Faculty of Economics in the World Economic History, and a Central Asian student, international student, is very talented. For example, one student from Azerbaijan started the exam, take a mobile, smartphone, and find the right answer. And I told to him that it's not right, not accepted using this kind of technology, take to me. And after some minutes, I looking other smartphone. It's well constructed student applied not only one but two smartphone for the exam, but passed finally with evaluation pass is to the grade. And third type of answer, try to first, try to second, and didn't work, not each nor other, and empire, anyway, the Western Roman Empire collapsed. Okay, we will continue with in the last and next week with the collapse of empire and starting of Middle Ages. Of course, I will make the list of expected questions until the end of last lecture. Okay. And probably I spoke about that the exam is a written exam, and you can repeat any times, and the best grade I will record to the Neptune. Okay, thanks a lot.